Hey guys, today I want to talk a little bit about the French election again. The May Day yesterday, the massive protests all over the world, basically, here in Los Angeles and here in the United States, but even more in France. Much more violent in France and bigger protests than they have here in the United States. And I guess this is in protest to the possibilities of Marine Le Pen winning the election, which they don't look great for her right now. But Simon Harris, a YouTuber, I believe he lives in Barcelona, guy's intelligent, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Only has about, doesn't even have 2,000 subscribers. I think he's fairly new at this. But anyone who doesn't watch Simon Harris needs to go and subscribe to him. The guy is amazingly thorough in his research and lays out basically very nonpartisan, lays out the facts. I mean, he's definitely on the right, but he comes from a non-biased view. And he a week ago he said he was afraid Marine Le Pen couldn't win this election, but he's a little bit more favorable today, and partly because of these mass protests. He's thinking this could turn people toward Le Pen because she's going to be speaking out about it, and Macron won't. Macron, he also showed a clip, Simon did, of a I believe it was a French newscast, and the guy was talking about how they have two choices. Either it's Le Pen, which he has a lot of disagreements against, or Macron, who Macron is the puppet of Hollande, the worst president France has ever had. So that's the basis. But if the French people don't vote for Marine Le Pen, they've totally lost their minds. And let's break it down. They have massive financial problems in France. They have massive immigration problem in France. They have more violence than in any other Western country. They are flooded. How is this going to get better unless they don't care, which we know they do. Of course they care. They don't want violence. They don't want their families to die on the streets of Paris. But right now, Lauren Southern is over there right now. She was on the Stefan Molyneux show today. Stefan did a video with her, and she was talking about how extremely, incredibly naive or docile the French people were, even though they're constantly thinking about terrorist attacks. And when she went to, I think she went to a Le Pen rally, they had this 15-minute walk to the actual building because it was a total clear space, no-go zone space around it, because the police were so concerned about allowing anybody to get close enough that could use a bomb. And then they went through they almost didn't let her in because she had a cell phone that wasn't charged for fear it was some kind of a bomb. It's on their minds constantly, but they're afraid to talk about it. They act like it's not happening. And that just comes from years of conditioning and years of being brainwashed. And I've said this before in my other videos. I grew up in an Amish community, very cultish, very mind control, and years of conditioning, and it's very difficult to break these cycles. And I'm just hoping that the French people are smart enough, like the Americans were that voted for Trump, like the British were that voted for Brexit, that these people, we have enough people that are willing to use their brains, that don't just lock down as soon as things become difficult and they're not sure which way to turn, what's right, what's wrong. They just freeze up and reject all truth. Let's hope that France isn't like that. That the French people can actually think clearly enough to see that they need a drastic change, even if they don't agree with Le Pen, even if they are against the right. They see we have to do something to change this. It amazes me at the support communism is getting in the West. I mean, the communism is anti-West. It's anti-European. There's nothing about it that supports our way of life, whether it's England, France, Switzerland, Germany, Sweden, United States. We're not meant to be communists. And I don't think you will ever see a European country be communist for a very long time. I mean, it's possible that it could happen, but it would be very short-lived. We're just not going to do that. People are not motivated to produce when they aren't, when they don't, it doesn't benefit them, when they aren't given the rewards of their hard work. And communism never gives people rewards of their hard work. It gives people who don't work hard some reward. And Stephen Molyneux did a video on this, I think, yesterday. You need to look it up. Awesome. He talked about how the less educated, the lower IQ, and the less money a person has, the more communism is allure to them. It sounds so good. Here we can get some reward without working so hard. You know, the whole system's against us. It's not my fault. You know, I want a little money too. But it never works like that. It always brings the people with more money down to the level of the... And even in the United States now, with the laws that we have, just tax brackets. If you're making, you know, you can make $50,000 a year, and that's not really enough to be very, very happy. But, and I've experienced this, but you get up and you start making more, you know, 75, 80. All of a sudden you get in that next tax bracket, and your taxes are so ungodly high, you can't even afford it. It's not worth it. You need to go back. You have to literally make less money. You're better off. You're better off making less money. And that's exactly what happens in communism. The people who are really producing. Stefan says that 10, the square root, he has this square root analogy, that out of 10,000 employees, 100 employees do 50%, produce 50% of the resources, the value, the money that the company's making. And it'll always be that way, and those people will never be equally, according to the work they produce, they won't be making 50% of the profit, and that's just not going to happen. But they will be highly, they will, in a free society, they are compensated accordingly, somewhat accordingly. They will make more money. But in a communist society, they aren't. And that's exactly what happened in Venezuela. In Venezuela, it's not that they don't have resources, it's just that people quit producing. Because over a 20-year period, people slowly produced less, and less. It wasn't really beneficial to them. So why would they? And then when they get in this massive backslide of this broken poverty, then it's really hard to come up out of that and start producing. It takes a long time. They'll have to have a revolution. You know, Venezuela is going to get worse and worse and worse, and France is too. France is going to get to the point where they're a third world country very quickly, unless the French rise up like they did in the old days when Joan of Ark, back in the 1400s, and drive out the invaders. You cannot, a country cannot survive with invaders among it. And Simon Harris mentioned this, the way I understood it, that one of these leftist candidates, ex-candidates, had gone and laid flowers on Joan of Arc's statue or something stupid like that. That's an insult to her. Joan of Arc would have had them burned at the stake. Make no mistake, Joan of Arc was a little bit of an authoritarian because she was Catholic, and at that time that was popular. You know, if she talked about it, she had some city, she had told them, she had sent a letter out that if they do not get in line, that they're going to be burned. They're basically doomed. But anyway, that being beside the point, Joan of Arc would have supported Marine Le Pen. Anybody who thinks she wouldn't have doesn't know anything about history. She definitely would have. And any leftist to insult her grave, acting like she wouldn't have supported Marine Le Pen, is an idiot. Basic. But Joan of Arc's story is interesting. She wasn't the... it's been blown up, the story of Joan of Arc, this brave soldier fighting, you know. She mostly didn't fight that much, but she was an inspiration. The English feared for their lives when they faced Joan of Arc's brigade. She was in command of a brigade. She really motivated her men. She really, I think, to see a woman, which was so unusual at that time, in battle, really gave them courage, and they were very, very hard to beat, very tough. And her career was so short, you know, just a little over a year. Amazing. And she was so young. I believe she died at the age of 19. But she had no fear. She would go straight into battle, right among the men, carrying her standard and her sword, and she gave them courage. She would not retreat, and that's why she was captured, because there was no retreat in her. And I hope the French people take example from her and see We cannot retreat, and we must drive the invaders out. They're in the same boat. The English had invaded France, 100 Years' Wars. Finally, they got a person to stand up, a woman to stand up and fight. And now they have a woman again, Marine Le Pen. It's ironic. It's a mirror of the 1400s. Another woman in France standing up that will drive out the invaders. And we know how extremely difficult it is to change the system. We've seen it with Trump. Even though Trump was elected as president, it's been very difficult for him. Even though he's dealt a damaging blow to the globalists, financially especially, it's still an everyday battle. It's hard. He's not radical enough, or he wouldn't be co-opted. He doesn't see what some of us see, how dangerous the globalists are. He's worked with them too long. He gives way too much credibility to the mainstream media. And so, yes, it is a battle. He is the best president we've had in 100 years, maybe the best president ever. He'll go down in history as that unless something drastic happens. I think he will come around by the end of his term, he'll come around and see the mistakes that he's made and correct them. But I think he will go off on a little wrong path here for the next year because of influence from Kushner and Ivanka and other globalists. But I think he will see it. He's a very intelligent man. He's very bold and he's very individual. And they don't have any dirt on him. We know that. Roger Stone said that at the beginning of his campaign. They got no dirt. He was the head of his exploratory team way back, and there's no dirt on him. And the dirt that's been on him has already been brought out. It's nothing serious. So that's good. But going back, the Joan of Ark, Marine Le Pen, can't say the word, makes me angry. It's the similarities between the two. Both, France was invaded by foreign mobs, or by foreign hostiles, and Joan of Arc raised up and was partly responsible to drive them out, put the courage back in. Marine Le Pen now, Le Pen raising up another woman, a great France warrior, a real heroine, or whatever you call it. You know what I mean. I see a lot of similarities between Marine Le Pen and Joan of Arc, and hopefully the French people will see it too, and they will fight back. Do not let, I wish I could pipe this into France, do not allow globalists and idiots to shame and guilt you into voting against Marine Le Pen. Vote for Marine Le Pen, people. Come on. Do it. Do it. Together. It needs to be the United States, Russia, and France to neutralize the power of NATO and China and take back Western civilization. That's it for now. Vote Marine Le Pen. People, get out there. Subscribe to Simon Harris. Great YouTuber. If you like my channel, please subscribe and like. I would appreciate it. Always hit that like button. I started doing it. I used to never do it, and now I do it because I make videos and I think about that. It's so easy to reach up and hit like. But anyway, peace.